In this video, I'll discuss how to capture field-based standard definition video using VirtualDub2, the settings required to set up the capture device, how to resize and deinterlace the video using StaxRip, and finally how to upscale the video to HD using Topaz Video AI. Alright, and just a quick note before we get started. If you plan to archive your VHS footage in this way, I'd recommend buying a very good VCR as well as a time-based corrector if your VCR doesn't include one. I have a Panasonic AG1980, which includes a TBC, a time-based corrector, so I'm good there, but if you don't have that kind of equipment, I definitely recommend using it. Okay, for this tutorial, I'm going to use the Diamond VC500 as well as the StarTech.com USB 3.0 video capture device, and I'll show you how to set both of these up in VirtualDub2, and both of these are available on Amazon. Here it is here. You can see I bought it in 2021. That's the Diamond VC500, and then the StarTech device, also on Amazon. I bought it in 2022. So I know about those devices. I'm not an expert in all devices that work with VirtualDub2. Like, I've never worked with the Elgato device or the EasyCap device, but hopefully this video still helps you out. So the software you're going to need to download VirtualDub2. You're going to need to download StaxRip. You'll need to download 7-Zip if you don't have it already installed. That's the software you'll need to use to extract the StaxRip software. And then if you don't have Topaz Video AI 4, you can download a trial of it on their website. And I'll put links to all these in the description below. So let's go ahead and download the software. Let's start with VirtualDub2. Just hit the download link. It's going to be a zip file. And I'm going to put this onto a folder called Video Tools on my C drive. So we'll save that. And then StaxRip. The link is in the description below. You want to go to the bottom of the page here and then find this 7-zip file in the Assets section. So click on that. And I'll put this in the same place, Video Tools. It's a 7-zip file. So we'll save that. And then to extract that, you're going to need 7-zip. So the download for that is free, and that's here, top of the page. I'm on a 64-bit system, so I'll download the 64-bit version. So download that. Same place, Video Tools, save that. Then you're going to need to download the drivers for both, or for either device you're using. So the drivers for the Diamond VC500 are on the page here. If you go down to support and downloads, you're going to want to download the VC500 complete package. So click on that. And that's another zip file. I'll put it in the same place, Video Tools, so download that. If you're using the StarTech device, go down to Drivers and Downloads. And you want the driver listed here under Drivers and Downloads. Another zip file, click on that. I'll put that in the same place. And then you want to download the trial of Topaz Video AI 4 if you don't already have it. To do that, you have to go to their website. The link for this is in the description, but it's all the way at the bottom. I have no idea why it's all the way at the bottom, but there's a button that says try it free. And unfortunately, when you click on this, you have to give them your email address. So just enter your email and they'll send you a link to download it. I've already purchased it, so I'm not going to do this, but that's how you would go ahead and get the trial version. Unfortunately, when you get the trial version, the renders you'll do are watermarked. So, but it gives you an idea of what you can do with the software. So that's all the software you'll need to download for this. Okay, now to install the drivers, let's go to the folder where I downloaded them. That's going to be my C drive, Video Tools, and here's everything. So let's do the Diamond VC500 first. I'll go ahead and click on the zip file, double click, extract all. I'll just extract these to the same folder, Video Tools. So extract that. Okay, so here they are, C drive, Video Tools, the complete install. The weird thing about this one is if I open up the VC500 EXE, which is what you think you would do to install these drivers, you can do that. But on my machine, install driver does absolutely nothing. Nothing happens. So instead, you have to go into the driver folder. And I'm on a 64-bit system, so go into x64. And then there's setup 64, and that will install the driver. So yes, I've already installed this driver, so I'm not going to actually reinstall it. I'll just let it do its thing and then cancel out. But ordinarily, you just walk through the driver installation process. It's very straightforward, and then you may have to restart your computer. So I'll cancel out of this. And then for the StarTech device, you're going to want this file here, the USB 3.0 Video Capture Device drivers. Unzip this. Same place, Video Tools, extract that. And then go into the folder here, hit Setup, and it'll be the same deal. One thing about this one, don't plug your device in for the StarTech device. Keep it unplugged until during the driver install it tells you to go ahead and plug it in. So that's one note to keep in mind. So I'm going to cancel out of this because I already installed it. But yeah, when you're installing it, it'll tell you, okay, go ahead and plug your device in. That's when you'll plug your device in, and then the rest will follow. Okay. And no. Okay, and then let's install our software. Let's close this. Back to Video Tools. And I want to install VirtualDub2. So go ahead, double click on this zip file. Extract all. I'll extract this. I'm going to take the version number out and just keep it at VirtualDub2. It's a little bit easier to look at. So we'll extract that. Okay, and that's quote unquote installed. There's really nothing to install. It just extracts and the software just runs standalone. So now VirtualDub2 is installed. We'll close that for now, and I will walk through installing StaxRip. StaxRip is a 7-zip file, so if you don't have 7-zip installed, you can go ahead and install it using the software installer and walk through the install process. It just goes into program file 7-zip, and then off you go. So I'll cancel out of that. So once you have it installed, go ahead, click on the Windows Start button, type in 7Z, and 7-zip will open up when you hit Enter. And then go ahead and browse to the 7-zip file you downloaded for StaxRip. I put mine in Video Tools, and it's right here. So click on that, and then you can extract it. Go ahead and click on Extract, and click on OK, and it will extract StaxRip for you. Okay. And StaxRip, similar to VirtualDub2, is a standalone application. There's nothing to really install. It just unzips and off you go. So I'm going to go ahead and rename this folder just to StaxRip. Easier to look at. So StaxRip is ready to go. So let's go ahead and get into VirtualDub2. Open up your VirtualDub2 folder, and you want to open up VirtualDub64.exe. And that's running now. Let's minimize this stuff. And once that's up and running, you want to go into Capture and click on Capture AVI. So click on that. And now you're in the capture mode. Under Video, select Preview System. Next, go to Video, select Set Custom Format right down here. And make sure for NTSC, you'll choose 720 by 480. If you're using PAL, you'll use 720 by 576. And then you're going to want to record in 422. So select YUY2. You can select either of these other two, but I use this one and it works well for me. Then click OK. Next, go to Capture. Choose Capture Settings. Make sure for frame rate you've chosen 2997 for NTSC. For PAL, type in 25 and don't click this button. And click OK. Next, go to Video, choose Compression. Now for this one, I like to use the UT Video YUV422BT601 VCM. Click Pixel Format. Pixel format should be 422 YUYV YUY2. Source should be YUYV. Click OK. There are two other codecs you can use for 422 capture. You can use Huffy UV or Lagarith. One thing about Lagarith does not work in Premiere Pro. So for whatever reason, if you capture an AVI using Lagarith, Premiere Pro just says unsupported format and it just doesn't work with the file. Huffy UV is fine for Premiere. This one works well. And then of course, UT works well. That's all set, so click OK. Okay, so now let's set up the StarTech device. I'm going to wind up digitizing with the Diamond device, the VC500, but first I'll show you how to use the StarTech.com device. So under Device, for the StarTech device, choose this one here, the CY3014 USB device. That's going to be the StarTech device. Click on that. Next, go to Video, choose Capture Filter. This is the driver for the StarTech device. So all I need to do here is select S-Video for my input. If you have S-Video, certainly use it. It's better quality versus composite. And for audio, I'm choosing Line In. And make sure turn off Deinterlace. You want to make sure your video is capturing both fields in each frame. And the rest of this you can leave alone. So click OK. For audio, you're going to want to make sure that the CY3014 device is selected for the StarTech device. All right, so now I want to make sure I'm getting audio and video from my VCR to the StarTech device. So I'll push play on the VCR, and I'm getting a signal. So now let's go ahead and set up the Diamond VC500. So what I'll do is I'll exit capture mode. And before I do this, for the VC500, there's one setting you need to set on your computer in your audio settings. So go down to your speaker icon here, right click, choose sound settings, go down to more sound settings. This is on Windows 11, but the goal here is to get into this window here and go into the recording tab and just make sure that this analog audio in, this USB 2.0 video capture device is disabled. If this is enabled, the VC500 will not work properly in VirtualDub2. So just right click, and if it's enabled, just make sure to disable it here. Okay, I've already disabled it, so I'm good to go. So click OK, close this, and now we'll go into capture mode in VirtualDub2 again. Click Capture AVI, and this time under Device, I'm going to choose the Connexent Polaris Video Capture Direct Show device. All right, that looks good. So same thing here. You want to do Preview System, and the VC500 has its own little settings we'll need to check. So go to Video, choose Capture Filter, and here's where you can choose on this device if you're going to digitize using NTSC or PAL. I'm going to choose NTSC. I'm in America, so I'm going to choose NTSC. If you're digitizing using PAL, you would choose that here, and there's CCAM as well. All right. These are grayed out always. And then if you want to change settings like brightness, contrast, you can do that here. I typically don't touch this unless I absolutely have to. So click OK to that. Then go to Video, Capture Pin, and make sure that your frame rate's where you want it, 2997. Your compression, you want to have it at YUY2, and then output size would be 720 by 480 NTSC, or if it's PAL, it'd be 720 by 576, and then click OK. And then on the VC500, to select your video source, you'll go to Video, go to Video Source, and you can select S-Video or Composite or no source. So there's where you'll select your video source. All right, and then for audio on this device, on the VC500, go to Audio, make sure Zero Capture Device is chosen, and make sure that the Connexent Polaris Audio Capture is not chosen. Very counterintuitive, but if you choose this, it's not going to work. So make sure Zero Capture Device is chosen for your audio. So those are all the settings for the VC500. So let's go ahead and capture some video now. So go to Audio. You want to enable audio capture. You want to enable the volume meter, and then just to test to make sure you're capturing audio correctly, you can enable audio playback, but I recommend turning this off when you start to capture your video. On many machines, if enable audio playback is turned on while you're capturing, you'll start to drop frames, and eventually your capture may even fail. So it's fine to turn this on for testing, which I'll go ahead and do now to make sure we're getting a signal. But once you start capturing, make sure that's turned off. So let's go ahead and turn it on for now. And I'll push play on the VCR.
Yeah, it was funny. I was hanging out with Phil from Pantera yesterday, and he's the same way. Seems like if he has to hang around someone for more than 5 minutes, he's like, "Get away from me."
All right, so that's working. So I want to turn off enable audio playback. And then we're going to go ahead and set where we're going to capture our video. I'll go ahead and click on File, choose Set Capture File. And I'm putting this on my Z drive under Video Captures Tutorial. And I'll just call this Video Capture Test. That's an AVI file. And then you'll hit Save. And be prepared, these are lossless AVI files, so they're going to be very large files. All right, so we are ready to capture. So I'm going to go ahead and push play on my VCR. And then when I'm ready to capture, I'll go to Capture and I'll choose Capture Video. So let me push play and then I'll push Capture Video. And now we're capturing video. You can see the amount of frames I've dropped is on 0. Frames captured, how much I've captured, and then the time left, that's based on the size of my hard drive. My hard drive is obviously very large because I can record for practically days. Free disk space, and there's your total file size. Other stats are down here, size of the video file so far, data rates, etc. So I'll let this go for a minute, and then I'll go ahead and stop the capture since we're just testing. So to stop, go to Capture, click on Stop Capture, and that will stop your capture. Just push stop on the VCR as well. All right, so we captured a clip and everything looked good. So we're ready to go ahead and work on deinterlacing and resizing this using StaxRip. So I'll close VirtualDub2 and then go ahead and go to your StaxRip folder that you extracted with 7-zip earlier. Open that up and then just double click on the StaxRip.exe file to open StaxRip. All right, there it is. StaxRip is basically a one-stop piece of software for writing code necessary for resizing, deinterlacing, and then encoding your video files. Ordinarily to do this, you'd use something like AVI Synth, and you need to understand how to write the code necessary to get those jobs done. But fortunately, StaxRip will do it all for you. It's pretty easy to use, and I'll show you the settings you'll need to do this fairly simple process. We're just resizing these videos to be square pixel aspect ratios, and we're deinterlacing them using pretty much the best method for deinterlacing, which is QTGMC. So the first thing you're going to want to do in here is set up a template that you can use later on. So let's go ahead and set this up. So first, we're going to set up deinterlacing. So right click where it says QTGMC Medium, go to Field, go to Deinterlace, choose QTGMC, and then finally QTGMC again. Click on that. I'm going to use Placebo. This is basically the best quality you can get for your deinterlacing, so click on that. My video is interlaced, so I'll choose Interlaced. And then I'm going to actually add a little bit of code in here to make sure that I'm able to swap fields if necessary. So if you double click on this QTGMC Interlaced, you can dig into the code. Here's the code that it wrote for the QTGMC deinterlacing job. I'm going to add, and I'll put this in the description below, but I'm going to add a little bit of code to this so I can control these fields a little bit better. So at the very end of this, I'm going to paste in this piece of code here. So I just added AssumeTFF, that's top fields first. And then if the video is actually bottom field first, it would say BFF here. So TFF is top field first, BFF is bottom field first. So click OK. And that's set up for your deinterlacing. The next thing I want to do is resize the video. So click on Bicubic Resize, then right click, choose Resize, go to Resize again. And I like to use Gauss Resize. So click on that. And then I want the video to be 960 by 720 in the end. So that'll change my non-squared pixel aspect ratio to a square pixel aspect ratio that we're going to further upscale using Topaz Video AI. But for now, we're going to upscale this to 960 by 720. So that's good. And then the last thing we're going to do is change the output options. Now we're sticking with a 422 lossless video file. So click where it says X265, go to FFmpeg, and we're going to do ProRes. So this will maintain the 422 lossless video file. It's going to convert it to an MOV file, but that's okay. So click on ProRes, and then we want to change this from MKV, choose FFmpeg, and change this to MOV. So you're turning a lossless AVI into a lossless MOV, and you're deinterlacing and upscaling it. And then you can check the encoder options by clicking here. The codec is ProRes. There are options for the profile. You can choose any of these. I keep it on HQ. That works fine for me. And then for audio, I keep it on copy mux. I don't change this at all. I just leave it as is and it works just fine. All right. So now that that's all set up, go to File and choose Save Project as Template. And I'll call this Deinterlace Upscale 720 by 960. Click OK. And then to load that template, you go to File and choose Project Templates. And there's the template you just created. Click on that. And there's all the stuff we just added. Pretty easy. And now let's go ahead and open the video file that we captured. So right click here, choose Open. It's a single file. And it's under Z Drive Video Capture Tutorial. There's the file that I digitized. Let's go ahead and open it. It's going to index the file, so give it a second. There we go. So all of our settings are still here. This convert to YUV420, you can just uncheck that. We're not going to use that. I think that's there because there's various filters that require this, but our simple deinterlace and resize job doesn't require that. So we can actually preview this job. So go ahead and click on Preview. And you can turn on and off this information up here. That's done by clicking I on the keyboard. That'll turn that on and off. But it's showing me that it's 960 by 720. And then when I deinterlace this, it's going to convert the 2997 file to a 59.94 file. So it's basically converting this to 60 frames per second. Okay, so let's go ahead and step through this and make sure our fields are not in the wrong order. So if I click the Advance Forward 1 Frame button, it looks like those fields are a little bit wonky. Yeah, that's not quite right. So the way you'll fix that, you can see it's just kind of jittery. Go back into QTGMC Interlace, double click on this. And the problem is that I've chosen AssumeTFF, where it should be AssumeTFF, so top field first. So click OK. Go back to your preview, click on R to refresh it. Now if we try it, let's go backwards. You can see that this looks a lot better. Oh, looks much better. So let's find a spot where there's some really good motion. And so you'll see if I advance this, it's looking pretty good. Let's take a look at what this looks like without deinterlacing so you can see the fields. Let's turn interlacing off by deselecting it. I'll go back in here and I'll hit R to refresh it. And I'll go back and find this same area in the video. And you can see, look at those fields. You can see the kind of the combing effect happening here. You want as much information as possible when digitizing these videos. So fields are great to record, but now that we have them, we want to go ahead and get this cleaned up. So you can see without deinterlacing, a lot of crazy stuff is happening. Old Rob Zombie's going nuts here, and he's making a mess of this video. So let's turn the deinterlacing back on. And hit R again to refresh this, and we'll find that same spot. And you can kind of see, I'm just going backwards here. Let's go forward. You can see that none of that crazy combing is happening. Those fields are now converted to frames, and QTGMC is doing its job. So great stuff. QTGMC is pretty awesome. Looks great. Okay, so that looks great. So we are ready to go ahead and convert this to an MOV file, and let's close the preview. This is the file we're working with. Here's the target. So this is the source and the target. It's going to go in the same folder as the current video. So that's going to be Z Drive Video Captures Tutorial, but you can change this to wherever you want. but I'm gonna keep it where it is. I think it's fine. And then the way to start the job and the way to go ahead and encode this is a little bit strange, but you click on Add Job. That's how you actually start the encode process. So click Add Job. This is the quote-unquote job we're working on. And all you have to do is click Start, and the conversion process will begin. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then once that's done, we can go into Topaz Video AI and work with this video to get it upscaled to HD. So click Start. And off it goes. It'll give you a countdown or a timer for how long it's taking. There's a little progress bar right here. So I'll give that a minute, and once it's done, we'll come back and we'll work in Topaz Video AI. Okay, let's talk about Topaz Video AI. And I am on version 4.1.0 as of January 2024. But the first thing you'll do when you're in here is open your video file. So click on Browse. And here is the deinterlaced and resized MOV file that was created using StaxRip. So open that. And here's what the interface looks like. It's a pretty simple interface. There's not a whole lot to it, but let's talk about what's happening here. You have your timeline, which you can scrub through like any other video editing application. You can mark ins and outs to determine how much you want to actually export. You can zoom in on your timeline like this. You can push play. You can advance frame by frame. You can also do that using the left and right arrow keys on the keyboard. So right arrow is forward, left arrow is backwards. You have a comparison mode, which we'll talk about in a minute. This is a way to compare different settings you've chosen for the enhancement. You can also just choose to not do that and have the original on one side and the enhanced version on the right side, but I'll keep that turned on. These are your views. You can have side by side. So you can have your original on one side and the enhanced version on the other side. You can do an individual view or split view. I like the split view because it lets you slide back and forth to see the changes. So that's my preferred view. This is your preview button, which you'll push when you're ready to start previewing all of your settings. Here's your input you've chosen. Previews will be down here. Exports will be here. And as we do our various changes to the enhancements, those will show up down here, and you'll see that in a second. So let's talk about the stuff over here, which is where you're going to do all of your work. So first thing is, I'm going to go ahead and change some of the settings regarding the size of this. Right now we're looking at the 960 by 720 at 59.94 frames per second video that was created in StaxRip. I'm going to change the output resolution to a custom resolution. There's presets in here, but because we're doing kind of an oddball, standard definition upscale, I prefer to do this on my own. So custom resolution, lock the aspect ratio, prioritize width is fine. Under width, type in 1440. And then this will change this to 1440 by 1080. All right. Frame rate stays the same. You're not using any of these, so those will remain turned off. But we are going to use enhancements. All right. We're not going to use grain. And then your export settings are down here. So first I'm going to choose my AI model. And to start with, I'm going to set this to iris, face, and I'll choose low quality. And then I'm going to change this to manual. And I'm going to leave all these at the default. So let's leave that like that. And the ultimate goal here is we're going to create a template that you can reuse later on. So the last thing to do for the template is going to be change your output settings. So if you want to do H.265, you would do that here. Main or main 10. Main 10 just means 10-bit. So we'll keep it at main. You can do constant. Target bitrate you can do somewhere in the middle. I'll do 12. Audio mode will be copy, so it maintains the audio that's already embedded in the file and your MOV file. Container is MP4, which is fine for this. If you wanted to maintain the QuickTime 422 quality, you could do that here as well. You would choose ProRes 422 proxy, or we did HQ in StaxRip, so you can choose HQ here. And container is MOV, but we're going to do H.265, main constant, do 12, copy, and then we're going to do an MP4. So when that's all set up, go back up to the top. You can actually click this button here to minimize these preview and export settings. So click that. Go to where it says preset, and we're going to do a new preset. So we'll just call this tutorial. But you can call it whatever you like, and make sure to include preview and export settings, and then click create. And there's your preset right there that you can then pull up as often as you like. So let's get into upscaling this video. And there's a section over here, let's zoom out on this timeline, right around the 9-second mark, where there's some good face video. So Rob Zombie's face here, and then Sean's face here. We can look at some of the settings to get this cleaned up. If you use the scroll wheel on your mouse, you can zoom in. You can also use the button here, but I prefer the scroll wheel, it's faster. And then if you click on the video itself, you can move it around, so reposition it to wherever you like. All right. So that looks good. So let's back this up a little bit. I'll zoom out. And we'll start around there. And then we'll choose our enhancements. Let's go back to here. So if you saw what I just did there, this is the original, this side, so nothing is selected here. So if that happens, it just means you're on the original side and all the stuff you had set before has disappeared because you're no longer on the enhancement side. So click back on the enhancement side and all your settings show back up. Just a tip. All right, so we're gonna do, let's try just to compare. The two that I think are the most effective are Proteus and Iris Face / LQ-MQ. LQ-MQ is low quality / medium quality. So let's try Proteus. Let's put it on auto, and then we'll preview this. Now there's previews for 5 seconds. You can do previews for 1 second. You can kind of choose how long to preview it. You can also set an in and out. So we'll just choose 5 seconds for the preview. And click preview, and it'll render out a 5-second preview of this using the Proteus auto settings. So click on that. And you'll see here the progress is loading the model. It gives you your time remaining to finish this preview. So 40 seconds or so. Percentage is there. And then as it renders, you'll see this progress bar advancing. All right. Even as it's rendering, you can start to look at it. So let's take a look. And I'll zoom in here. And you can see this is the original. And here's what Proteus is doing. Let's go over to Sean's eyeball here. And you can see that's the original on the left, and on the right is what Proteus is doing. So not bad, pretty good. All right. And then if you want to compare this to, let's say, Iris, if I click on this side, click on your preset that you created. All right, so now that's already set to Iris. Let's change this to auto, just to see what auto does real quick. And then we'll compare the Proteus to the Iris LQ. So let's preview that. And you'll see there's 2 tracks down here. This is the one that already finished, so that's the right side. And this is the one it's rendering now up here on the left. Okay. So let's zoom in here and take a look. So let's back it up. All right. Zoom in more so you can see this is Iris on the left, Proteus on the right. Not a huge difference, but to my eye, and a lot of this is subjective, but to my eye, I prefer the Iris LQ versus the Proteus. It's just a little cleaner. And you can see that. You can see there. Even her jacket, look at the details on her jacket. With Iris, that's a little cleaner to me. And then Proteus is not as clean. So we will stick with Iris for this. I just wanted to show you that I think Iris tends to work better for this type of work. So let's go ahead and we will do this again. And let's set this side to the original. If you click here, you can set this to original, or you can turn off comparison mode. And that sets it to the original. And then what we're going to do is go into the manual settings for Iris. All right. And like I said, I think low quality is better than medium quality, but we can actually try that. Let's try that now. So let's go back to comparison mode. And let's change this, back to the tutorial, and we'll change this to medium quality. So now we're doing Iris, medium quality, auto on the left, Iris, low quality on the right. So let's go ahead and render this. Okay, so it's rendering. So on the right you have low quality. Let's zoom in on our eyeball again. On the left you have medium quality. So that low quality model works a lot better than the medium quality model for some reason. The medium quality model, I don't know, it just adds artifacts and it's just blech. I don't like it. So let's stick with, let's set this back to the original, and we'll stick with low quality. Let's go to the manual settings. Okay, let's scroll down a bit. So for this, and you can highlight these to see what these things do. I'm not going to dig into all the details here, and I'm not going to show you every single difference between all these because I'd be here all day. But I do have some settings that I wrote down for what seems to work pretty well for this video. So let's change fixed compression to 75. You can type this in. If you hit tab twice, that tabs you down to the next setting. So improve detail, I'll change this to 30, and then tab twice, sharpen 15, reduce noise 20, dehalo 0. Dehalo is generally nasty. I tend to stay away from it. Anti-alias / deblur can be useful, but again, I tend to keep it at 0. I'm not going to add noise. It does exactly what you think it would do. It adds noise. And then recover detail, I'm going to change this to 30. Push enter. Okay, I'm not going to use any grain. And then focus fix is something that I have not played with. It's brand new and it would not apply to this anyway. So let's try that. We'll preview this. Let's back it up a little bit so we can get more of Rob Zombie's face as well. And we'll preview that. Okay, let's take a look. If you click here and just go forward a little bit, you can dig into the enhancement section here, the part that it's processed. And we'll zoom in. And you can see left side's the original, right side processed. So, you know, there's a weird thing with this where it becomes almost fake looking. You have to kind of find that fine line between keeping some realism and also keeping the upscaled look. Like I said, it's almost subjective, and it's a lot of trial and error with this. But I think these settings look pretty good, especially when we get over to this section here with Sean. And you look at the 8 on her hat. It's quite cleaned up. You can see some definition there. Her jacket, her hair, her eye. Now that all looks, to me, significantly better. It's like cleaning off a windshield. It's a windshield wiper. So, all right. So I think that looks pretty good. And you can play this, but this happens pretty quick. This video footage is pretty fast, but we'll play it. It's pretty good. You can also, this is kind of cool, if you right click in here, go to preview, you can choose show or open an external player. And that will actually open your preview in your computer's default video player. So VLC or what have you. I use MPC BE as my default video player. If I double click, you can view this full screen. It should loop. So that looks pretty good. I mean, if you hold control down and use the arrow keys in this software, this is MPC BE. It's free software. But control, right arrow, lets you advance frame by frame. And you can really see just how cleaned up that looks. It's pretty good. That's just a preview. Not bad at all. Okay, let's close that. And let's go over to the interview footage. That's kind of interesting to look at. Let's try the same settings on here. We'll do the same settings I chose before. Let's go ahead and preview this. Okay. Processing, you can also resize this area here to make it larger if you want. But I tend to like to zoom in instead. So let's zoom in, take a look. And on the source video, there's not a lot of definition in their hair and faces, but here you're getting some. It's not perfect, and it's not going to be, this software is not a miracle worker. It's not going to fix everything, but it is significantly better if you ask me. Some more detail in the faces. It looks pretty good. And this is another example of, let me show you, if I go to comparison mode, go back over here, use our preset, and if I chose medium quality instead, and I'll just put this on auto for this, and we'll just preview it. Okay, and then if you look at things like hair with medium quality versus low quality, medium quality is on the left, low quality is on the right. I think the medium quality kind of makes it look more crunchy. You might like that, I don't know. It depends on what you're looking for, but to me, with this medium quality, it just doesn't look, it's not as smooth, it's a little crunchier. So, just another example of, for whatever reason, this low quality model seems cleaner. It seems cleaner to me, right? You can see in there faces and whatnot. You can zoom way in here. So, just something interesting to look at. So let's look at another video that I've converted using the same method. Drop this in. You can drag and drop files into the software. Let's go over to about 33 minutes into this. There's a little backstage portion here with Scott and Frankie and Charlie here. And for this one, let's go ahead and use our preset again to start with. But I'm going to use low quality again, and then I'm going to do 50 on fixed compression, 53 on improved detail, 30 on sharpen, 20 on reduce noise, 0 on anti-alias de-blur, 0 on add noise, and then 100 on recover detail this time. Okay, and let's take a look at that. And this time the original is on the right and the enhanced version is on the left. Let's take a look. So if I zoom in, you can see the original is here on the right, the enhanced one is on the left, and to me that's pretty good. I mean, if I zoom all the way in, what am I, let's see, if I zoom in, I'm at 700%. You can see that, what it's doing there. That's just crazy. It looks pretty good. I mean, if I play this, it's pretty good. For what we're doing here, converting old standard definition VHS footage, this looks pretty good. All right, so let's go back to the other video. And I'll go ahead and export this whole thing, and then we can kind of look at these things side by side and compare where we started to where we finished. So I'm going to go ahead and export this entire video, and then we'll come back and take a look. So to export it, your export settings have already been set, but I'll double check them here. This all looks good. I'm going to choose export as, and I'll go in the same folder, and I'll just leave the name as default, capture test iris2.mp4, click save, and then your export will show up over here, and it will give you the time remaining to render this file. And just an FYI, the render times can be very long depending on how long your video is, so just be prepared for your computer to sit here and work for quite a while. This clip's pretty short, so this is a pretty short render, but it can take a long time. And then the files, depending on what you chose for your export settings, can be pretty massive. This one should be pretty small since we're converting down to MP4. So stand by and we'll take a look at this when it's done. Okay, so it's done, and I can click here to view the export. There it is. So let's play right here. Let's take a look. This looks pretty good. And again, if you're using the MPC software, it's control left arrow key to go backwards and control right arrow key to go forwards. Looks good. Let's check the interview portion of this over here. It's pretty good, you know. So let's look at where we started. That was this. This is the AVI file, the original AVI file. And I'll open this with VLC. Okay. So there is the original. Let's make this full screen. You can see where we started. So on this one, on VLC, if you push E, that goes frame by frame. And then if you push D, that turns on Deinterlace. So there's where we started. Let's take this and make it sort of side by side here. All right. So you can really see here, you know, the difference. Let's go over here and get this. Let's back it up a little bit. I mean, you can clearly see the difference. So let's go over here, Control, arrow keys. Pretty significant difference. We'll just make this full screen again. See that? Make this full screen again. I mean, it's not even close. So pretty amazing stuff. And that should be enough to get you where you need to go with this. There's a couple of little tips here at the end, if you want to bear with me. A couple of things to note. First is cleaning things up. When you're done with all your work, the StaxRip software creates this temp file. You no longer need this, so you can delete it. So this folder is pretty big. So you can see there. If you go in there and look at it, it's got the scripts that it wrote. You can delete this whole folder. If you want to look at the script, you can do that as well. You can look at this using Notepad. Here it is. So this is all the code that it wrote for you. So there that is. So I can go ahead and just delete this whole folder though. I don't need it anymore. So delete that. And then the other thing was in StaxRip, let me go back to that folder. If you want to change the template you created, so it's top field first instead of bottom field first. When I was showing how to create the template, I left it at bottom field first. So let's go back in and we'll change that. So open StaxRip, open up your project template, which was Deinterlace Upscale 720 by 960. Double click on QTGMC interlaced and change BFF to TFF. Click OK, and then go to File. Save project as template. The same name should pop up. Click OK, and from now on it'll be the right field order for the VC500. And also remember with StaxRip, you load your template first before you load your file. Like if I was to try to start a new project, if I opened a file, and then if I tried to apply the template to it and don't save, my source file disappears and I'll have to reopen it. So just a tip. So that's it, and I hope this helped you guys.